Welcome back to the Top 5. Today we are going over the top 10 most horrific punishments. Sit back, grab a snack and hit the subscribe button. 10. Flaying. Flaying, the act of removing skin from the body, was employed as a punishment for severe crimes. This gruesome method was not just a means of execution but a public spectacle intended to instill fear. In ancient Assyria, King Ashurbanipal was notorious for his cruelty. Captured enemies were flayed alive, their skin displayed as trophies to intimidate others. The horror of witnessing such a punishment left a lasting impression on the populace, reinforcing the king's reign of terror. 9. The Brazen Bull. The Brazen Bull, a terrifying invention of ancient Greece, was a large, hollowed-out statue of a bull. Victims were locked inside, and a fire was lit beneath, roasting them alive while their screams echoed as a horrific imitation of a bull's roar. The bull was commissioned by the tyrant Phalaris of Akragas, who had the inventor, Perillos, demonstrate its use. In a cruel twist of fate, Phalaris decided to lock Perillos inside, forcing him to experience the very device he had created. The tyrant's laughter filled the air as the inventor met his agonizing end. 8. Crucifixion. Crucifixion is perhaps one of the most infamous methods of execution, famously used by the Romans. Victims were nailed or tied to a cross, enduring a slow, agonizing death from asphyxiation and shock. The crucifixion of Jesus Christ is a poignant example of this punishment. Condemned by Pontius Pilate, Jesus was nailed to a cross, where he suffered for hours before succumbing. His death became a symbol of sacrifice and redemption, yet the brutality of crucifixion serves as a stark reminder of the inhumanity of this method. 7. Rat torture. Rat torture was a particularly gruesome form of punishment. A rat was placed inside a container against the victim's body, which was then subjected to heat, forcing the rat to burrow into the flesh in a desperate escape. During the Spanish Inquisition, a man accused of heresy faced this horrifying fate. As the heated container pressed against him, the rat's frantic attempts to escape resulted in unimaginable pain. The victim's screams echoed through the dungeon, a chilling testament to the lengths authorities would go to extract confessions. 6. Impalement. Impalement was a brutal method of execution popularized by Vlad the Impaler. A sharp stake would be driven through the body of the victim, resulting in a slow and torturous death. Vlad III, known for his sadistic nature, used impalement to instill fear in his enemies. One notorious event involved the impalement of thousands of Ottoman soldiers, their bodies displayed along the Danube River as a warning. This horrific act not only showcased Vlad's cruelty but also his ruthless strategy in battle. 5. Scaffism. Scaffism, or the boats, was an ancient Persian torture method where the victim was trapped between two hollowed-out tree trunks, fed milk and honey, and left in stagnant water. A Persian noble accused of treason was subjected to this horrific punishment. Confined in the boats, he was fed and left to the elements. Flies were attracted to the milk and honey, laying eggs in his wounds. Days passed in agonizing suffering before he finally succumbed to infection and exposure, a grim reminder of the brutality of this method. 4. Lingi, death by 1,000 cuts. Lingi, or death by 1,000 cuts, was practiced in China until the early 20th century. The condemned would be sliced gradually, prolonging their suffering as a public deterrent. One victim, accused of treason, faced this horrific execution. As the executioner began slicing off small pieces of flesh, the condemned endured hours of agony, remaining conscious for the entirety of the ordeal. The method served as both punishment and a terrifying warning to others, illustrating the extreme measures taken to uphold authority. 3. The Iron Maiden. The Iron Maiden was a medieval torture device resembling a sarcophagus with spikes on the inner walls. When closed, it impaled the victim, leading to a slow and painful death. The Iron Maiden of Nuremberg is one of the most infamous examples. A thief was condemned to this grim fate, locked inside the device as spikes pierced his body. The screams of the dying echoed through the chambers, creating a ghastly spectacle for onlookers, who witnessed the horrific consequences of crime. 2. Sawing. Sawing was a gruesome method of execution where the victim was hung upside down and cut through the body, often starting at the groin and moving downward. In medieval Europe, Johann Peter, a notorious executioner, became infamous for his brutal sawing technique. One unfortunate thief was captured and subjected to this horrific punishment. As the saw began to cut through his body, the victim remained conscious due to blood flow to the brain, prolonging the agony of his demise. The public execution became a chilling reminder of the consequences of crime. 1. Drawing and quartering. Drawing and quartering was a punishment reserved for those convicted of treason. The victim would be hanged, disemboweled, beheaded, and then divided into 4 parts for public display. William Wallace, the Scottish knight, faced this horrific fate after being captured by the English. Accused of treason, he was subjected to a brutal execution. After being hanged, Wallace was disemboweled and beheaded, his body divided and displayed across the kingdom as a warning against rebellion. His gruesome end became a symbol of resistance and horror, forever etched in the annals of history.